I know the value of the Germany, but I know also the value of my players.
You know, ideally we want to win the game in 90 minutes, but if we need to go into extra time penalties, we'll be ready.
Good evening, this is the World Cup report, live from Cape Town. Steven Gerrard says England are prepared for penalties. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. A rather brief news conference today. We'll be analysing what was said with our chief football reporter Nick Collins very shortly. There's a boost for Germany ahead of the game. Midfielder Bastian Schweinsteiger could yet play after taking a full part in training. Ghana are through to the quarter-finals. They have beaten the USA in the last few moments 2-1 after extra time in Rustenburg. And after a 40-year wait, Uruguay are through to the quarter-finals after beating South Korea by 2-1. So confirmation in the last few moments that we have a quarter-final. Uruguay will play Ghana on Friday in Soccer City. We will reflect on that in just a moment. Can England make the quarter-finals? Let's go live to our chief football reporter, Nick Collins. Nick.
Well, yes, here in Bloemfontein we've been digesting the England news conference that took place in the stadium a few hours earlier. It wasn't quite a case of blink and you'll miss it, but it didn't last that long. But for what it's worth, here's Fabio Capello and the thoughts of Steven Gerrard as well.
It's a very important game. Will be, I think, one of the more important because we won't go forward. We want to play the next game. And I know the value of the Germany, but I know also the value of my players. The pressure is normal when you play the World Cup. Also the player understand everything.
Nick. Steve, a lot of this squad know what it's like to beat Germany. You were in Munich for that 5-1. As a result of that, do you think this squad has the mental strength needed to beat Germany on penalties if needed?
Yeah, I certainly do think that we're very confident going into the game. We're on the back of a good performance against Slovenia. The mood's really good. We've worked hard and prepared hard for this game, and we'll do whatever it takes to get across the line and go into the last 8. It's going to be a very difficult game. You know, ideally we want to win the game in 90 minutes, but if we need to go into extra time penalties, we'll be ready.
Steven, we've just heard from the German squad, and they said that all their players do find it difficult to make themselves immune from the fact that it is England against Germany. How do you try and cope with that and all the historical significance of this fixture and focus on what you've got to do tomorrow?
Well, I think experience helps. You know, I've been involved in massive games throughout my career, so the experience of how to prepare for them games will hold me in good stead for this one. But you know, there is a lot of pressure, and it is a tense situation because there's so much at stake, but it's more excitement and looking forward to it. We can't wait to get out there and hopefully win the game.
Gabby?
Fabio, yesterday Joe Cole said that Wayne Rooney was on fire in training. He was absolutely fantastic. How are you going to make sure he's on fire tomorrow?
Yes, Rooney are training very well and shoot very well to the goal. He scored a lot of goals. We hope tomorrow will be the same, but always Rooney is a really good player. It's important. He didn't score in the last games, but it's always important for us, for the movement, the assist, for everything that he did during the game.
Gabriel?
Fabio, do you know your team?
Yes, I know. It's not, probably you know the same.
The same team as played against Slovenia, or will it be Upson or Carragher?
Yes, I have one dub, but I know the game. You know, the first 10 players that we play, miss one.
And Steve, just a point. You played in that game against Portugal. You've played along with other players in this squad in World Cup quarter-finals. Because it's Germany now, because it's a World Cup, is this game bigger for you players than those quarter-finals were?
It's difficult to say whether it's bigger, because at the time when we played Portugal, that was a massive game as well, and we were desperate to win that game. But that's gone. That's history. This is now. We're not in control of that result against Portugal no more. What I'm in control of now is tomorrow's game. To make sure that I myself play well and the team plays well, and we do everything we can, and we have no regrets after tomorrow.
Carrie.
Stephen, Wayne Rooney hasn't scored in this World Cup, but he's lost none of his lustre here. The headlines in the local newspaper, Rune Fontaine. There's been a lot of pressure on him. A lot of pressure he's been putting on himself personally. We've seen that from his reactions when he threw out the game recently, and when he went off and criticised fans. Do you think the fact that now you're going in this not as favourites and with such a big atmosphere, that will take the pressure off him somewhat?
Yeah, I think so. I think the pressure's not just on Wayne, I think it's on the whole team. But top players put pressure on themselves. I'm sure Wayne's doing that in his own spare time, but it's only a matter of time before Wayne scores in this tournament, and hopefully that's tomorrow. I have every confidence in him that he's going to play well tomorrow, because he played well in the last game, and as it's been said earlier, he's looking really sharp and well in training. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how Wayne plays tomorrow.
And that was that, Nick. 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Why was it so short?
Well, we should say that they can be as quick or as long as they want to be. There's no designated length for a FIFA World Cup press conference on the eve of a game. What you need to know is the two teams were told by FIFA they couldn't train in the stadium behind me because they wanted the pitch to recover after the game yesterday between Switzerland and Honduras. Now, England trained at their Bafokeng base and flew in later. They were quite happy doing that. Germany had to train on another pitch at the university campus in Bloemfontein. Gather they weren't particularly pleased with the idea of that. They wanted to train in the stadium. As a result, they claimed that they couldn't get their coach, Joachim Löw, here, or a senior player to the ground in time for the press conference. So they sent their goalkeeping coach, Andreas Köpke. He did the press conference, but as a result of that, England felt, well, why did Fabio Capello and Steven Gerrard have to be flown in all the way in from Rustenburg to do the press conference when the Germans couldn't be bothered to even just come down the road? So perhaps that explains why it was so short. But ahead of the German press conference, a FIFA official did actually, he didn't admonish the Germans, but he did make it clear that FIFA weren't entirely happy with this turn of events.
I'm going to turn this over shortly to the German team. I need to make one short announcement. You are probably aware that match day -1, the FIFA rule for teams is that they have a press conference with a trainer, with the coach, and with a player. And so Germany is aware of that, and they have decided not to bring Herr Löw tonight. And any other questions would be directed to them. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Next question, directed to you, Nick, is what about the England team? Selections for Fabio Capello, or do we know what's going to happen?
Well, we know 10. I think Fabio Capello pretty much said that in his news conference. The one area, of course, where there's a bit of debate still is who's going to partner John Terry in central defence. Now, Matthew Upson did a pretty good job there against Slovenia after a slightly hesitant start, but they did keep a clean sheet. They kept their 100% winning record under Capello as well, Terry and Upson, 7 wins out of 7 now. So I'm sure it'll be very tempting for Capello to not change a winning team. But having said that, he does have a couple of other options, because Jamie Carragher's now available again. He was suspended for the Slovenia game. And of course, Ledley King's back in full training and supposedly fit. So you never know, he may even come into the reckoning. But I think probably Upson's just ahead. But it'll be tight between all three of them. But I would expect that Fabio Capello will probably keep his winning team.
What did you make of Capello at the press conference and his body language, Nick?
Well, I think he set out pretty plainly that he fully understands the implications and significance of England against Germany. I'm sure that people like Stuart Pearce would have told him all about it if he had any doubts whatsoever. And he knows that the players are going to be under pressure and certainly in the spotlight. But I think he's expecting that his England team, having played the way they did against Slovenia, they'll come out and play the same way, if not better against Germany, and that they'll play with the English spirit that Fabio Capello talks about. They'll play with that passion, that fire, and with a bit of tempo. And well, they've been practicing really hard since that game against Slovenia. They've been training well. Wayne Rooney, as we were hearing, apparently really looking good on the training ground. Let's hope he can translate that into goals on the pitch here in Bloemfontein tomorrow.
Yeah, it really is a massive day tomorrow, isn't it, Nick? And a big occasion, really, isn't it, for the England captain?
Yes, it is. I mean, he was asked there. He's played in 2 major quarter-finals at tournaments, Euro 2004 and, of course, that World Cup quarter-final in Gelsenkirchen 4 years ago. Was this bigger? And you could see that he was mulling it over in his mind and thinking, well, perhaps it is actually, because they can influence this result. There's nothing they can do now about what happened 4 years ago or 6 years ago. But if they could beat Germany to advance to the quarter-finals of the World Cup, I mean, the boost that would give the squad and the nation would be extraordinary, wouldn't it? And that's why he's won 83 caps. Tomorrow will be his 84th. It just might be his biggest game yet in an England shirt.
Nick, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Lots more from our chief football reporter, Nick Collins, through the day tomorrow. We'll be presenting live from Bloemfontein tomorrow for the World Cup report. Make sure you join us for the best build-up to England against Germany. What about the Germans then? Bastian Schweinsteiger is in a race to be fit for the match. His participation will be decided only hours before kick-off.
It is still open. The coaches will meet and we will have to wait and see how Bastian's muscles react. And then the coaching team will sit together and go through the eventualities. And if Basti can't play, then it will hurt us. Then we will have a solution ready, but at the moment we are not yet sure. From time to time we practice penalties for certain international matches, sometimes more than others. But when it comes down to it, I don't think you can simulate this situation in training. The stadium is full and after 120 minutes you're exhausted. The tension is enormous. All these highly paid players can score goals in training, including penalties, but when the situation comes, it's hard to simulate it. And so I don't think penalty shooting practice will help much.
For a long time we thought we were heading to penalties at Rustenburg tonight between the USA and Ghana. Went to extra time. Kevin Prince Boateng gave Ghana the lead. Landon Donovan equalising just after the hour mark from the penalty spot into extra time. 3 minutes into it. Asamoah Gyan scoring the goal. 23rd for his country. Only the second African player to score 4 goals at a World Cup finals. Roger Miller, the other, who got 5 famously. And it's Ghana who go through to a quarter-final against Uruguay at Soccer City on Friday. What a great story this is. With Bafana going out of the World Cup, it seems most of South Africa are supporting the only African nation left in the competition, Ghana, and them going through is fantastic for the competition. They won 2-1. The USA had an excellent campaign. They led, can you believe, for only 206 seconds of the entire campaign in a game, that is, yet still got to the round of 16. They can be very proud of their achievement. But they go out, Ghana go through. Uruguay-Ghana is the first of the quarterfinals. That is after Uruguay became the first team to reach the quarterfinals after beating South Korea 2-1 in Port Elizabeth earlier on today. Luis Suarez was the hero. 2 goals from him saw the South Americans through to the last 8 for the first time since 1970. The first South American country other than Brazil or Argentina to reach the quarterfinals since Peru did it in 1978. These were the scenes on the streets of the Uruguayan capital, Montevideo. Around 1.5 million out of the 3.5 million population live in the capital. Uruguay won the first ever World Cup finals back in 1930, but are through to the last 8 for the first time in 40 years. Uruguay had 7 shots on target, South Korea had just 4, both sides 3 corners. It was South Korea who dominated possession. They're keeping the ball for almost 2/3 of the game. They also had the superior pass completion and made over 85% of their tackles. South Korea also notched up 3 yellow cards. Uruguay got none. South Korea have still never beaten South American opponents at a World Cup, and they go out. Uruguay are through. So we know our first quarter-final could be at the stadium behind me, remember. England against Argentina potentially, if England win and Argentina beat Mexico.